Chelsea fans, welcome back to Talking Chelsea. Welcome back to your Chelsea news. Chelsea set a new price tag for Nicolas Jackson. Talks are accelerating for Xavi Simons, and Xavi Simons prioritises a move to Chelsea. Not only that, but we have some player updates regarding Trevor Chalobah, Nkunku, Joao Felix, Disasi, and Sterling. Now, of course, I will give my own thoughts and opinions on everything that's been reported, but more importantly, I want to know what you guys think down below in the comments. And before we get into the video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you are a Chelsea fan who enjoys Chelsea content. We're on the road to 10k before the end of 2025. Fabrizio Romano has reported that Nkunku, Felix, and Sterling are all leaving Chelsea. S. Johnson Sport has reported that Chelsea have dropped their asking price by £22 million for Christopher Nkunku and want around £43.3 million for him. He goes on to report that Chelsea are looking to sell Joao Felix for the exact same amount of £43.3 million. And he finishes the report by saying an unnamed Champions League club are keen to sign Sterling and Chelsea will accept a bid of £20 million. Now this could be a bit of a gold mine for Chelsea. We're going to speak about Xavi Simons and Jorrel Hato a little bit later in the video as we did yesterday because it all links to these two players. But as of right now, Sterling for 20 million, 43.3 million for Nkunku and Joao Felix could be very, very sweet for Chelsea in terms of, incoming money and outgoings of players. It does free up spots for the likes of Xavi Simons. It means we can get the likes of Sterling off of our books because he's very, very high wages. Now, I'm very curious to know who the unnamed Champions League club are that are keen to sign Sterling because as much as it's a headline that a Champions League playing squad wants Raheem Sterling, it doesn't really narrow things down too much because so many teams play in the Champions League or have previously in the last sort of 3 or 4 years, right? There's a big myriad of clubs. So I'm very interested to see what team that may be. I have a feeling it may be an Italian club. We've seen an Italian club, I think it's Napoli or Juventus, I can't remember off the top of my head, but an Italian club is picking up Jadon Sancho for a cutthroat price of around 20 million euros, and he's taken a massive wage cut to make that deal happen. And I feel like there could be another Italian club out there, maybe it's the same, maybe it's a different one, that are very interested in signing a Raheem Sterling for 20 million euros, because that seems like a very high quality player for the price to go to the Italian league. We all know that Serie A don't generate as much money. They try and sell high and buy low. And with Chelsea looking to get Raheem Sterling off the books for £20 million, I feel like an Italian club could come in for that sort of range and be more than happy to pay that type of price for the player that Raheem Sterling is. He's still got years left in him, and I feel like he'll do very well in a Serie A because it's a lot more of a slow-paced league. There's, very more defensive-minded. Maybe that's an old traditional sort of, viewpoint of it, but they are, build up from the back. I feel like the wingers can kind of exploit some space and try and break teams down. I feel like Sterling would do well, just like I feel like Jadon Sancho will do well in that league as well. So it could be like a nice route out for Sterling. I feel like it might be a Serie A team. I'd love to know your thoughts regarding Sterling down below. £20 million, to be honest, I would take it at this point. He's been with the club 3 years. We paid 47.5. And I think yesterday, one of you guys in the comments worked out that he's 2 years left on his contract with the wages that he earns. I think it works up to about £30 million or something like that. So Chelsea would probably be losing a little bit of money in that sense, but saving as much in terms of the wages that we won't pay, right? So I think it makes sense. £20 million for Sterling for an unnamed Champions League club. I've got a feeling it's Serie A. Now, when it comes to Nkunku, the asking price being 43.3 million, and the same with Joao Felix, this makes things very interesting. For Nkunku, I think that is a very fair price in terms of his roller coaster career at Chelsea. We know he's recently started playing a lot better. We know he had a bit of a rocky patch under Enzo Maresca with long-term injuries under Pochettino, etc. The lack of wanting to be there, or what it seemed, that's how it looked like from the fans watching. He didn't want to be there. Lack of pressing, lack of interest in general, and overall poor performances, right? And I think that's fair to say. He did have some good moments for sure. And like I said, he's improved recently. But I think 43.3 million is attainable for someone like Christopher Nkunku because, again, he's still young. He's still got he's a world-class player on his day when he's like good run of form. Bayern Munich have been sniffing around the likes of Nkunku, and I feel like if we're willing to let him go for 43.3 million, I don't know what that is in euros. What's that? 50 million euros. I feel like that is an acceptable fee for Bayern Munich to come in and go, do you know what? You outpriced us in January for like 80 million euros, but if you're willing to take 43 million for him, or let's say 43.5 for him, we can afford to do that right now. Let's get the deal done. And I think it could be a case that Chelsea want to offload Sterling, Joao Felix and Nkunku as quick as possible, so then they can accelerate other deals. One, it's good generating income. Two, it's good for the outgoings. And three, for the income is coming in of Jorrel Hato and Xavi Simons. It frees up the space. It makes sense if Chelsea are offloading Nkunku and Joao Felix to then go get a player like Xavi Simons. And like I said, we're going to speak about him later on in this video because things are accelerating. There's also a little bit of a caveat to it, which kind of makes sense. It's kind of a full circle moment for this video. But when it comes to Joao Felix, we spoke about him yesterday in this sort of emotional reunion with Benfica. Benfica are trying to put in their final sort of bid for Joao Felix of what they can afford. And I said, if they come in around that sort of 20, 25 million euros, Chelsea may accept it because it's just a way of getting Felix off the books, right? Because he's turned down other offers from Porto and Flamenco and stuff. But Chelsea also set a £43.3 million price tag for Joao Felix. Now, we bought him for around about 45 or 55 million. So, we're not looking to make a massive loss on him. He took a pay cut with the wages, so that's not really a big burden on us, so to say, right? I think he's on around 140 grand a week, something around that range. It's not massively inflated wages. He was happy to take the pay cut, which I'm very grateful for. Quite sad it didn't work out for him at Chelsea, if I'm being honest. But Chelsea looking for the same money for Felix and Nkunku. And I find that very interesting because, like I said, Felix has had some heavy links with Benfica recently. It looked like he was going to go that route, or potentially go that route if Chelsea and Benfica could agree on a fee. But now it looks like Chelsea are going to demand a bit more money. And I'm cool with that, but Joao Felix is the one I have a question mark over the most because I don't know who's going to come in and pay 43, 44 million pounds for him at the moment. I don't know what team in Europe has got the sort of money or the interest in going after a Joao Felix, unless it's another Premier League club. If he can stay in the Premier League, I think he would really thrive under certain teams and certain systems for sure, especially if he gets a good run of games. He's definitely a confidence player, and we know his output needs to improve. But if he stays in the Premier League, that sort of money I think is attainable. And I think if you're a Premier League club buying someone like Joao Felix for £45 million, it's an absolute bargain considering the amount of money that transfers have gone for the likes of Elanga and Kudus and Madueke, etc. 44 million for Felix is an absolute steal in that regard. But I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions regarding the price tags. Do you think like 43.43 million for Nkunku and Felix is fair? 20 million for Sterling? Where do you think that Sterling will end up in terms of this unnamed Champions League club that are keen to sign him? And where do you feel like Nkunku and Joao Felix will end up as well? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. Rahman Osman has reported that Chelsea put an £80 million valuation on Nicolas Jackson. Jackson has rejected Napoli and AC Milan. Villa have asked to be kept informed, and a project like Manchester United could be of interest to him. Sky Carver have also reported that if Nicolas Jackson were to leave Chelsea, the £79 million Liverpool are paying for Hugo Ekitike, or Ekitike, I can never pronounce it right, I apologise, would be used as a benchmark for any potential deal. And I think Chelsea are in a very healthy position with this. It's very clear that Chelsea are open for Jackson to leave this summer. Jackson has turned down Italy. Italy don't have the money to pay the fee that Chelsea are asking for. And I think that using Hugo's deal to Liverpool is a perfect excuse to try and leverage as much money as possible for Nicolas Jackson. There's also been something else reported. Sky Carver continues their report by saying Jackson has a better scoring and goal involvement record over the past 2 seasons in a higher standard league. They've backed it. They're using it as a benchmark, saying, all right, 79 million for Hugo. We want 79 at least for Jackson because he plays in a higher standard league and he's a better GA contribution over the last 2 seasons. And I think that's a fair thing to do because essentially what happens is if no one comes in for Jackson at £80 million, Chelsea keep him. He stays at Chelsea. He then has another season to develop and prove himself and fight for that number 1 spot when it comes to the number 9 position with the likes of João Pedro and Liam Delap. If someone comes in for 80 million, Chelsea are rubbing their hands together because we bought him for 32 million a couple seasons ago. Massive profit. So essentially, thank you Liverpool, I suppose, for buying Hugo for the fee that you paid. You know, Chelsea also went back and forth with Frankfurt about Hugo. They were quoting 100 million euros, which is very close to the 95 that obviously Liverpool have paid in euros, by the way, not pounds. And Chelsea were like, it's just a bit too much. It's just a bit too much. And fair enough. I'm glad that we didn't go all in for him. And look, we don't know how Hugo's going to play in the Premier League, but it's an exciting exciting player to be coming across to the Premier League. But I am fully on Chelsea's side here. I think this makes so much sense because, look, £80 million for Nicolas Jackson. Yes, please. Snap their arm off. Take it all day long. Well, that's just my opinion. I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions regarding Nicolas Jackson down below. With Chelsea using the Hugo Ekitike deal as a make weight of £79 million. Do you think this is a smart move, or do you think that we should go for something less just to get him off the books? S. Johnson Sport has also reported that Chelsea are still open to offers for Trevor Chalobah. This is because Wesley Fofana is still considered ahead of him in the pecking order. Now, I find this very interesting. And like I said to you, I don't think, like I say to you guys every day, I just react to the headlines, give my opinions, and ask for yours in the comments, right? We're just fans that are all sharing opinions, and I absolutely love this community. I'm not saying that these reports are gospel, right? I never have. If they come true, amazing. If they don't, cool. We can just have some conversations about it. I don't know how true this is, purely because last week we spoke about Trevor Chalobah and all the reports coming out saying Chelsea are not actively trying to sell Chalobah. They like him as a player. They're not actively encouraging bids for Chalobah. They like him as a player. But they will listen to offers, which I think is a respectable thing to do for any business, for any player. That's natural. Someone comes in for Enzo Fernandez and they're offering, I don't know, 150 million plus. They're going to listen to that, right, as a minimum. They're just going to. Doesn't mean they're going to sell him, but they'll at least listen to the offer. And I feel like that's what's happening with Trevor Chalobah. I don't feel like they're actively going to push him out because he's such a vital player. And the way that the club have treated him, or the owners have treated him since they're coming in, has been unbelievably disgusting. And I feel like there is a redemption arc from the owners and the board with Trevor Chalobah directly, because he's repaid it. Like, he's such a top professional. He's a very good player. He's one of our own. He needs to stay, in my opinion. He needs to stay, and I'm hoping that he does stay, because he played a very vital part in Chelsea's season, this season and next. Because if they're looking at Wesley Fofana as, you know, ahead of him in the pecking order, that's all well and good. But Fofana cannot stay fit. That is the problem. So if you're going to offload someone like Trevor Chalobah because Fofana is seen ahead of him in the pecking order, Fofana needs to be able to stay fit for a long period of time before you sell someone like Trevor. Because if you sell him and Fofana still has these reoccurring injuries across next season, we're back to square one with a big hole that needs filling at centre-back. Now, yes, we've got talks with Jorrel Hato. We'll talk about him just a little bit later in the video, so make sure you keep watching. But honestly, it makes no sense that Chelsea would actively try and sell Chalobah while this is an ongoing issue medically, right? If Fofana then goes, you know, 3/4 of a season, or a little bit more than that, fully fit, then this could be a conversation next summer. I still wouldn't agree with it. I'd still keep Trevor Chalobah personally, and I'm sure a lot of you guys would. Let me know your thoughts, opinions on Trevor Chalobah down below. We all love him. But that would make more logical sense if Fofana could stay fit for 90% of the season, then yes, because then Trevor would have less playing time, right? But the other caveat to that is Enzo Maresca likes to rotate a lot. He likes to rotate his squad throughout the season, throughout the competitions. So I still feel like Maresca likes Chalobah. Chalobah loves the club. He wants to play for the club. He's an unbelievable professional. So I don't want to read too much into this, because yes, we know that they're still open to offers. They're willing to listen to what's being presented, but they're not actively trying to sell him, and they're not actively shopping him around like they were last summer. So again, I wouldn't read too much into it. I still think that the situation stands as it was last week when we had these reports of, you know, not actively shopping, etc. But I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions regarding Trevor Chalobah and Wesley Fofana and the sense of the pecking order. Do you agree with what I said in terms of the logic of, you know, if Fofana can go 90% of a season, you know, injury-free, then we have that conversation potentially next season? Again, I still wouldn't be happy with it. I want to keep Trevor as long as possible. That guy's won trophies under us. He's an absolute top professional. But I'm very curious to know your thoughts down below. Multiple sources have reported that Villarreal is expected to make a loan offer for Axel Disasi today and begin negotiations with Chelsea. This is very interesting. There was a story or a report that I missed out yesterday because it was after the cut-off of yesterday's video and before this one, but it kind of solved itself within 20 minutes. There was also a report that a Saudi club that were interested in Disasi, they were exploring options, and within 20 minutes, they closed that and said, nope, we're not even going to bother anymore. So look, there are clubs that are interested in Disasi. He had a very good loan spell at Villa. Villa really like him. Where are Villa at? You know, come and buy him. Come and buy him. We want him off the books, right? But Villarreal coming in to make another loan offer. I think that's another lifeline for Disasi. And in terms of Chelsea, not getting a player off the books, but getting them out of the way, essentially. Like, so he's not part of the squad for what Maresca wants to do next season. I would much rather a permanent sale, because I don't see a way back for him. And that's just my opinion. I'd love to know yours below. I don't see a scenario where Disasi plays in Chelsea's first team. Potentially never again. You know, I think that it's done for him. And, you know, it's not his fault. It's just the way that things are planned out. And we have better centre-backs. We're better defensively without him. And I don't think that's an unfair thing to say, right? Very interesting to see if Chelsea are going to entertain a loan, because, again, we have limited loan spots. You guys let me know in yesterday's video, the comment section. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Basically, unlimited domestic loans and like 6 European or international ones. Fair. We've already filled, 4 of those. So were we going to realistically waste another one on Disasi and then potentially the last one on Chukwuemeka or Carney? I don't think so. I think we're going to look at as many permanent sales as possible. And I feel like if Villarreal want to come in and make a loan, it'll be a loan with an obligation to buy rather than just a straight loan and buying another season's worth of time. I understand loans because it's a try before you buy for the club, and it also, yes, you have the weight of the wages to pay, like the loanee club, but you haven't got that sort of obligation to buy unless it's in the loan contract. Now, if there is an obligation to buy, fantastic, because you can do it on a loan and a little bit of a reduced fee for the obligation. Just like we were going to do with Jadon Sancho for 25 mil. There's just another clause that's saying if you fail to do that, we get money regardless, and it was a £5 million fine, which we paid. So if we do something along those lines, I'm not too sad at that. But that does then take up another loan spot for the rest of the squad in terms of development and what we've got planned for, say, Tyreek George, Marc Guiu, Ashimpong, if they are to go on loan or stay. Obviously, I'd like to see them stay, but they are also players available to go on loan for development. It just takes up another spot. So I'd much rather a permanent offer come in because what do we do with Disasi? Villa were interested, but they're obviously got a lot of their money tied up in player wages. Is he good enough for the Premier League in terms of another club coming in and paying top money? Does he go abroad? Does he go Serie A? Does he go La Liga? We'd very much like to know your thoughts regarding Axel Disasi. Should Chelsea keep him? And should Chelsea use up a loan spot by letting him go to Villarreal? Or should we offload him permanently? And how much do you think we could realistically get for Axel Disasi? S. Johnson Sport has reported that Chelsea have rejected offers to sell Marc Guiu. They are looking at a loan, with the preference being for the striker to stay in England. I think this is a fantastic move. Guiu has such incredible raw talent. We've seen the glimpses of it. We can see that he's very good at pressing, very good at everything as the all-round game. Strength, link-up play, obviously finishing needs to be a bit more refined. But he's a very good forward, very, very young, and we got him for an absolute steal of a prize. I think it was like £5 million. Unbelievable. I want him to stay at Chelsea for the long term, but he needs to develop. It's very clear. I don't think if he stays at Chelsea, if Jackson goes and Guiu stays at Chelsea, he'll get minutes. If Jackson stays, Guiu goes, he gets minutes on loan. If Jackson's sold and Guiu goes on loan, I'm still happy because I want Guiu to play as many minutes as possible. And I feel like if he can stay in England, the perfect destination for him to go would be somewhere like Ipswich. Very physical league, a lot of games to be played. He can make a name for himself down in the Championship. Yes, it's not the Premier League, but I don't feel like any Premier League team right now would play Marc Guiu consistently as their starting 9. I feel like they have players ahead of him. And if he is to get consistent game time, we'll see this player transform rapidly. And I feel like with us buying Delap from Ipswich, it makes sense. There was also reports when we were purchasing Delap that they were interested in asking about the availability of Marc Guiu. Now, I don't want to sell him, of course. A loan would make sense. And this is why what I said previously about Disasi. It's like, do we take up a loan spot with Disasi? Because you've got the likes of Marc Guiu, Tyreek George that could all go out on loan, and then other players within the squad as well. As much as we don't want them to, I think it does make a lot of sense for their development. So if Guiu was to go to somewhere like Ipswich, I would be all over that because I think he would crush it in the Championship. He's quick, he's strong, his hold-up play is good, his finishing needs to be refined, but he has raw, natural finishing ability. Imagine him playing 48 games or 46 games in the Championship, or 42 games. I know it's over 40 games in the Championship compared to the 38 in the Prem, but playing consistently week in and out, week out with the extra competitions as well, his development would be rapid. So I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions down below. Are you glad that Chelsea are not selling Guiu? Where do you think the best place on loan would be for Marc Guiu? Let me know your thoughts down below. S. Johnson Sport has reported that Chelsea made fresh inquiry of Jorrel Hato. Nothing has progressed yet, but the situation is said to be ongoing. Now, we spoke about Hato yesterday. Things haven't really moved. I just wanted to talk about this quickly. This is something that Chelsea are actively trying to get over the line. Like I said, there was other reports that were very quickly deleted that Chelsea were close to agreeing a verbal agreement of around £40 million, whereas Ajax wanted 60. Chelsea wanted for around that £40 million mark, and it seems possible. Reports have said that £40 million could be a possible deal. So talks are ongoing with Jorrel Hato, and honestly, we need him. He would be incredible. Unbelievable. We spoke about how good he is. I don't want to linger on this too long. I just wanted to kind of pop this in there as like a current update. I feel like verbal agreements are very going to be confirmed soon, and I feel like a deal is going to be done this week. That's my prediction. I could be horribly wrong. It's also my opinion. I would love to know your thoughts down below. A lot of you are big support of Jorrel Hato. I think he would be an incredible addition to our squad because he can play centrally and he can play out on left back as rotation for Cucurella, rotation as those centre backs. Unbelievable player. Imagine being the understudy to Cucurella in his current form. Unbelievable. An international who's played a lot of games for Ajax at a very young age, solid defensively, good defensive IQ. Chelsea are really in there right now. You know, nothing's progressed, but talks are on, or situations ongoing. I feel like it will get over the line this week, but I'd love to know your thoughts down below. Fabrizio Romano has reported that Xavi Simons has opened doors to Chelsea move after direct contacts with his camp. Club-to-club talks will start from Tuesday as Chelsea Leipzig will discuss deal conditions. That's obviously today. For Chelsea, deal depends on outgoings. Arsenal remain also keen, but Gyökeres and outgoings are a priority. Plettigol have reported that Chelsea are working on an agreement with Xavi Simons. Talks are taking place this evening. Leipzig wants £60 million, while Chelsea would like to pay less. Fabrizio Romano also reported that Xavi Simons' fee is expected to be lower than the reports of £60 million. He finishes his report by saying Xavi Simons has completely opened doors to Chelsea as his priority now. Club-to-club talks are set to start soon. Now, this is big for us. I'm not going to lie, especially how the last 24 hours are planned out. Yesterday, we spoke about Xavi Simons in detail, and then since that video came out, there's obviously been a lot more reports, which ties into this video, right? A lot of you guys ask, I upload 3 p.m. every day. If it misses the cutoff, it goes in the next video. But Xavi Simons is a very exciting player. I can see this deal, again, being done by the end of the week. I really can. Chelsea are not messing about in the transfer window this summer. We are not messing about. Gittins took a bit of time, admittedly, right? But we got it over the edge. We've got Mamadou Sarr was just done under the radar. Delap done. João Pedro done. Like, we're just going in and getting the players that we want. Now, obviously, outgoings being the... the balancing act that Chelsea are trying to do before they bring in Xavi Simons makes sense with what we said earlier in the video, that Sterling and Nkunku and Felix are gone. That is the plan. Sell them this summer, bring in someone like Xavi Simons, jobs are good. And because a lot of you guys and myself at times have kind of gone, well, where is he going to play? This guy can play as a 10 fantastically. He can play out on the left fantastically, and he can play out on the right, maybe not fantastically, but he can also do a job out on the right as well. Now, there are lots of sort of thoughts and processes that you guys have been letting me know through DMs and comments and things like that of how you feel like Chelsea are going to set up with the likes of Xavi Simons, having Palmer, Esteval, Neto and Gittins. Now, essentially, what we could see is Simons playing as a 10, Palmer out on the right-hand side, Neto or Gittins on the left, and then obviously you bring off Simons later in the game, put Palmer back centrally, bring on Esteval on that right, or like for Simons and Esteval to play in that 10 role. Pedro can play either side. There's just a lot of fluidity and a lot of rotation options within that attacking line, and Simons is a player that gets you excited. He is an exciting player to watch. He plays with passion and grit, and honestly, we spoke about a lot about him yesterday in depth. I honestly feel like the verbal agreement is on the verge of being agreed. Simons is like, yeah, Chelsea is a priority. It's a concrete option. I'm sold on the project. Take me. And now it's just between the club to club. Now, reports saying that £60 million. Fabrizio saying it's less than that. Yesterday's video, it was like, I think it was around £56 million could be enough to get it done. In my opinion, if you can sign Xavi Simons for under 60 million, that is an absolute steal. Because like I said earlier in the video, look at the deals that have taken place this summer already. Noni Madueke over 50 million. Alanga, Kudus, and Mbeumo for 70 million. So if you can go get a player like Xavi Simons for under 60, unbelievable business. Now, yes, it's a Bundesliga player come across to the Premier League, and historically for Chelsea, that hasn't worked very well. I will openly admit that, right? But we can hope and pray. And I feel like Xavi Simons is the type of player to break that sort of curse, the Bundesliga curse, because there's got to be so much pressure on him. When we bought Timo Werner, we wanted him as a 9. It just didn't work. We tried and tried and tried. Havertz, we didn't even know where he played. Is he a 10? Is he a 9? Is he a winger? Where does he play? We tried and experimented, right? And I feel like with Nkunku, he's been unfortunate with the long-term injuries. And again, we've played him in a myriad of positions this season. And yes, he's had an improvement in the last Club World Cup tournament and the last Premier League performances just before that as well. And he's sort of finding his feet in an Enzo Maresca system, admittedly. But when you really break it down, I feel like a player like Xavi Simons, there's less pressure on him. He's an exciting player. He can come in rotation, play a myriad of positions. If he's sold on the project, then he knows what he's signing up to. I just think he's a fantastic addition. And honestly, I think the agreement between player and club is pretty much done. It's not official, but it's pretty much done. If he's opened the doors and he's like, yeah, I want the move. It's just about how much Chelsea and Leipzig can agree on a fee. Now, I'd like to know your thoughts below. What do you think that fee will be? I honestly think that we can maybe get a £55 million fixed with maybe a couple million in add-ons, maybe 2.5, 3 million in add-ons. I genuinely think that Chelsea can get this deal done for under 60 million. And if we do, that is unbelievable business. And to be fair, even if it is 60 million pounds, that's still really good business for this type of player. He's 22. He's already played across the big boys in Europe. He's had a very good season at PSV, a very good spell at RB Leipzig. He was at PSG and he did all right there. Yes, his GA might look fantastic, but when you actually watch the games of how he's played, he's been that guy that plays under pressure. He was at Barcelona's academy. There's always been pressure on him whenever he plays, and he's dealt with that very well. So I feel very confident he can come into a Chelsea team and do very well. Again, that's just my opinion. I would love to know your thoughts and opinions down below. The other sort of way to look at this is it's a lot cheaper than Morgan Rogers. Morgan Rogers, the asking price is £80 million, and yes, he's Prem proven, and I know the caveats that go with that for sure. But if you can get a player that's like for like in terms of positions they can play, same age, very talented, technically gifted, etc., can beat a man, can score a goal, can assist goals, the whole package essentially. Because in my opinion, they're very similar type players. But you can get Xavi Simons for nearly 25, 26 million pounds cheaper. It just makes a lot of sense financially, right? So I would love to know your thoughts and opinions regarding Xavi Simons to Chelsea. Do you think it will work? How much do you think Chelsea can secure him for? And when do you think this deal is going to be announced? Do you think it will be end of this week, or do you think this is going to be dragged out for a long period because Chelsea are waiting for outgoings? And that's all the latest Chelsea news. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on everything that's been reported down below in the comment section. I love having a conversation with you guys. And if you have watched this video all the way to the end, firstly, you're a real one, and I mean that, you're a real one. And secondly, there'll be a thumbnail appears on the screen. So if you are a Chelsea fan who enjoys Chelsea content, make sure you click that thumbnail because you'll enjoy that video too.